The Zoom is dead, or no, the Zoom is not dead. PLM operations, we'll start. Okay, welcome to the session around PLM operations and why is it important to take control over your PLM system, to understand what is happening with it, how is it used, do you have any problems with it? And the guy to help us explain those challenges and how we can overcome them is our kind of lead platform architect, Claude Tsarafidy. And he's also the product owner of our value tools. And he's also the member or one of the members of our expert services team. So Claude, please go ahead and share your things. We can do questions. You can answer or you can ask questions in the stream, and we'll try to address them during the session if possible. Otherwise, we try to follow them up afterwards.
Okay, thank you. So, why is it important to be in control of your PLM system? Let's start first with setting the global picture. You have implemented a PLM system, and of course, to be able to support your business critical activities. That means that will bring changes to your organization. And when we are talking about change, of course, we can relate to change management. And one of the key successful factors to be able to have a successful PLM implementation is user acceptance and adoption. By increasing trust in the system, users will get used to the system and accept the system, and they will be able to actually use the processes you have defined, standardized through the PLM system. That will help you to demonstrate the value of the PLM processes, which have been defined during the implementation phase. And overall, in adding the productivity gain for each user, you should be able to gain productivity on an organizational level. And of course, that should shorten your ROI, return in investment, for your continuous PLM investment. But let's go back to the first criteria, user acceptance and adoption. So on the right side, it is usually translating in end user experience. The better the end user experience is, the better the user acceptance will be. And to be able to achieve this level, acceptable, good level of your end user experience, you have 5 pillars: usability, performance, availability, security, and manageability. Let's start with usability. This is usually done on the implementation phase, where you define the different PLM processes, and the platform, the system, should be user-friendly, should be, of course, helpful, and the user should be able to do his daily work without any impediment, collaborate with the entire organization as needed, and that is normally defined through the implementation phase. Of course, we have, with the years of experience in TECHNIA, we have developed products to be able to address this part with value components. And lately, we have also added a product like MyWay to be able to actually improve the user help in the system and how to improve the help or the usage of the system in the platform. The key points of this session will mainly focus on the operation side, which is in light blue. So through performances, availability, security, and manageability, that will ensure and that will define how the user perceives the platform. Performances first. Let's take an analogy. You are logging into Netflix and you will look for your movie, find your movie, search your movie, and start streaming. And the performances, the movie is lagging. That will actually shape a very bad image of the platform, and the end user experience will be pretty bad. So we need to perform the same on the user point of view for our platform. And operations needs to ensure and provide performance for all the different users across the different locations you may have in your organization. Related to availability, the system needs to be online when the user needs it, so it can perform his daily work. And downtowns will usually impact your bottom lines because users will not be able to perform the job. So operations needs also to ensure and secure availability. Security is mainly on the enterprise side. You want to protect your IP, intellectual property, because that is what is adding value to the product you are actually going to release to market. So that is pretty important, but you need to find the correct balance between usability and security so that users of your system can do their daily work without impediment. And manageability, which is very crucial from an operation point of view, is how easy is it to maintain, secure, and deploy your platform and operate it on a daily basis. So these are the key important factors to ensure end user experience. But what are the usual impediments or roadblocks you encounter when you're actually dealing with your system operations? If you have a very low level of operation, then you will usually be only able to react to emergencies, which will actually jeopardize your operation and schedules. It is also very hard to identify complex problems. Moreover, it will also be hard to know how the system is used, how it should be fine-tuned, and how it should be improved. And of course, when you have problems which are impacting the business, you will be in a stressful situation. And of course, you will rush and you will not be able to actually plan efficiently and target your efforts and resources wisely. So what we want to have is a high level of system control. So we want to be able to have smooth systems operations. Of course, to be able, with the help of a high level of system control, to identify the problems you're facing and also analyze the trends. That will help you to understand how the system is used. And of course, to be able to target the areas where you can actually bring values by investing. And of course, it's contrary to being just able to react, to be proactive and transparent across the organization. So the complexity, why is it so hard to have control? That comes from multiple factors. You have a lot of information, so the information is widespread, it is complex, it can come from different domains, and 3DX data is often not monitored with your usual monitoring systems, which are usually defined to be able to monitor the system on the system level, not on an operation and application level. The information is usually also stored in many separate locations and in different formats. And in addition, some data which can be crucial are normally never stored at all by these standard operation and monitoring tools. So in addition to this layer of complexity from the infra side, you also have multiple ownership of the data. The data is actually owned and managed by different parts of the organization, which can lead to some communication issue because people from different domains and areas will use different words to express the same thing. And if they have problems and they report to support, they may actually describe the same problem using different terms, and that can actually create confusion. So if you don't have an overview and a good understanding of the pattern and behavior of both 3D experience, but in the context of your global IT landscape, that makes it very difficult to have control on your system. So what can be the steps in order to actually succeed in taking control and ownership of your system? It goes through diagnostic, analysis, investigation, and treatment. So in the diagnose phase, you need to be able to have information coming from different areas of your system, not only the 3D experience, but globally from your IT landscape. And you need to add that information in context in order to be able to analyze which layer might be impacted and to narrow down the scope of your problem. Once you have done that, you can actually go further and do deep analysis and investigation to be able to address the root cause instead of just the symptoms. Once you have done that, you can then select the correct treatment and apply it and double check if your treatment was correct or not. And that could actually look back because you will be able to get feedbacks from the diagnosed point of view. In TECHNIA, we have had a couple of years of experience in these problems, and we have actually developed tools in order to support us to deal with this ownership of the platform. Coming from the value tools with platform intelligence, we have access to, from a visual point of view, to an aggregation of data live, or we can also go back into time to be able to actually see the trends and perform a diagnostic, which will allow you to narrow down and to actually target the correct layers which needs to be investigated. Once you have done that, you can focus then on this part and perform deep analysis and investigation using Profiler, for instance. And once done, you can then apply the treatment using Schema tool. And you have actually a feedback loop also, because then you can validate in platform intelligence again if your treatment was correct or not, and if you had other root causes for your problems you're currently encountering. So that gives you a very good overview, both in the now, but in context of your system. Let's see some different examples. So you have common with application load, mainly dedicated in that case to performance problems. For instance, what does the overall usage of the system look like? What are the network characteristics? Where can I improve my infrastructure on the network layer? How is the load distribution per service and per country? So here is, for instance, an example which show you from a visual point of view network-related information, which can allow you at once to identify the areas where you may have actually problems with your network. We see, for instance, that there is a huge difference between the Stockholm area and some of the other areas. And then you can narrow down and target the specific areas to be able to treat the problem. Related to proactive analysis and troubleshooting, it's mainly to be able to what is taking time, for instance, and what layers of component is the bottleneck, what exceptions are the most critical. So to be able to at once identify the bottleneck is very useful and can actually shorten down your time of investigation to the strict minimum, so you can dedicate the correct resources and time and plan to be able to be proactive. For instance, which kind of browser cache is used? Is the cache correctly saved? That has usually an impact on the web performances, web application performances. So that is quite important, and this kind of view synthesize from a visual point of view what you may look for. Or for instance, to identify the different exceptions on the web application level. Once you have identified that, you can actually relate these feedbacks to the developer team so they can address this problem and, of course, improve the performances. On the usage patterns, it's very important when you want to be proactive to see how the system is used. Is there differences between location, which functionality are mainly used, how often are some data actually accessed, so that you can scale and prioritize this operation and improve this operation and dedicate the correct resources on these operations. So these are just some of the common questions and areas we are dealing with. How often, for instance, are certain functionality or use cases used? How is the data actually growing so you can actually scale and plan for the corrective actions needed ahead of time? Some more examples related to usage pattern. How is the search used? And that is mainly the different things. So it is very important to be able to have the correct tools which allow you to diagnose, perform the analysis and investigation once you have narrowed down the scope and apply the treatment and validate that the treatment is actually efficient.
Okay, thanks, Claude. Informative information, and a lot of these things that we saw in the end, they are from our platform intelligence tool.
Yes. So this, the platform intelligence allows us to have a very visual view of all the data aggregated from the different parts of the systems. So it's live feedback, and you can also go back in time and analyze the trends and so on. So this is very useful when you're trying to do some analysis and troubleshooting. But it allows you as well to actually be proactive and dedicate and define which areas should be improved overall.
All right. Thanks a lot, Claude. I mean, this will be followed up in the next session, which will be a panel discussion, including us and customers, discussing around these topics, what is kind of the most important or the hardest or challenges for them, and also kind of what mitigations, what control do they have over their data and their system, and do they think it is important to have that control? We will also launch some global campaigns. Now we only have 2 minutes left until the panel discussion starts, so we will also communicate this in some other format, sending this out to you. But we can take just the next slide, Claude, to say that we have 2 free campaigns. One is around performance and one is around productivity. More or less meaning that we will join you and your team to make an analysis. Maybe it takes us a day, half a day or something like that, and we dig down and to analyze what problems you have with your performance. And we will also come up with potential solutions and, I mean, detailed data around the profiling of those cases. Similar thing when it comes to productivity. If you just go back, Claude, I think we'll skip the 2 other ones. Mm-hmm. But around productivity, it is sometimes it can be a cumbersome flow, and your user spends a lot of time maybe jumping between different context sessions. So we would like to kind of meet you, listen to your problem, then come back later on and propose potential solutions to optimize the productivity for those user groups. So I think that said, we will close this session. We will get back with the campaigns later on, but please join us in the panel discussion that starts in a few seconds in the next stream. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.